Hi, classmates. I want to discuss something that is increasingly becoming part of our reality VR. For many people, VR is still perceived as a future possibility or something you do while you game, but it is a reality and is already impacting our lives in powerful ways. Living, working, learning, socializing, and certainly for some purposes we might not expect. In the next few minutes, I am going to take you through what VR is, how it has developed over time, and how it is being used in potentially unexpected ways for education, social engagement, therapy, jobs, and potentially more. I will also give you an example of how I use it and what I mean for the future. If you've never jumped into VR or you are someone who has immersed yourself in VR, it is starting to change the way we experience things in the real world. And the more it's developed, the more it will continue to influence the way we engage with the world. So, what exactly is VR? At its most simple definition, VR is a headset you put on that puts you inside a digital world instead of the real world. You put on the headset and you are suddenly standing on the top of the mountain, under the sea, or in the middle of a video game. Everything in that scene is a computer generated image, but it feels like you're there. The headset learns exactly where you're looking and where your hands are in space, so as you move your head or turn, the scene moves with you. If you throw in headphones or speakers, now you get true 3D sounds. All of these components interact with your brain so you feel like you're there, and it gives you the sensation of presence inside the digital world. People are using VR for lots of different things, gaming for sure, but also working out, hanging out with friends, painting, or more. This is a new medium to engage with the world not only through a screen but by actually stepping into it. VR is what we call a disruptive technology, not because it disrupts, but because it transforms. It replaces something altogether rather than just enhancing a pre existing one. Instead of watching a documentary, you will encounter exploring a rainforest in virtual reality. Instead of a Zoom call, you will meet coworkers around a virtual table. In VR, it turns passive activities into a full immersion experience. This fits an observation by Marshall on the medium is the message. What he means is that the tools of communication affect how we think. VR is one of those tools that don't just change what we see, but also reviews the emotional and participatory experience around the content. That is why it is disruptive. It's not just an upgrade, it is a whole new way of doing things, and we haven't even begun to see where this can go. Although it might seem like virtual reality is a new idea, it has been around for decades. Engineers experimented with early headsets as far back as the 1960s. They were very basic, clunky, heavy technology, but the idea was to create digital worlds to step into. In the 1990s, companies such as Nintendo attempted to place VR in homes of consumers. The technology just wasn't there yet. Everything was rough, headsets were uncomfortable, and the consumers weren't impressed. Oculus changed that in 2012 with the Kickstarter campaign. They created a headset that was light, immersive, and cost effective compared to the traditional gaming at the time. And since Facebook, now Meta, purchased Oculus, the world was once again paying attention to VR. And now we have high resolution wireless headset and prices continue to decline each year. What was once confined to the world of science fiction is becoming real life. Here's how this works. A VR headset has two tiny screens, one for each eye, showing slightly different images. This provides a 3D effect, similar to your eyes and how they work normally. Sensors in the headset are tracking what you are looking at and head movement. So if you turn and look behind you in real life, you will likewise turn in the virtual world. Some headsets even track your hands or allow you to use controllers to grab, move, and touch things. You will also hear sound coming from every direction in spatial aural manner. This adds to the realism. Footsteps come from behind you or birds are flying overhead. Some newer systems are even using AI. For example, they make predictions about your movements or responses and adjust the experience to what you're doing. But the real magic happens when all of these elements combine, which creates a real feeling of being somewhere else. Originally, I thought I would be using VR just for fun, games, roller coaster experiences, cool 3D art apps, but quickly I was also using it for other purposes. After a while, I started doing workouts in VR. Something about boxing or dancing in a virtual world from my living room makes the exercise feel much less lame. More recently, I found a few social apps where I will hang out with friends, avatars and all, and it felt much more like simply hanging out with friends as compared to texting. Sometimes I just use it to decompress. There's a bunch of meditation apps that can take you to a nice quiet forest or a mountain at a sunset. I know it sounds silly, but it being completely enveloped in this scene allows me to decompress probably way more than I would otherwise. So yes, VR has become part of my day-to-day life and it has gotten me to move more, has encouraged me to connect more, and has helped me to rethink how I think about my relationship to technology. One of the coolest things about VR is the way it connects with people, not just to socialize, but to collaborate and learn. There are worlds of people in the VR chat to meet in spaces, to meet from all around the world, to join language classes, create virtual art galleries, or simply engage with the weird and wonderful creative spaces that people have created from scratch. We call these communities of practice, where people learn by doing and teaching others. It's not the same type of formal structure as you're used to in school, but you're still learning something new. Because in the VR environment, you can gesture, move around the space, and feel the environment with a sense of spatial awareness. Social interactions feel much more natural than simply texting somewhere or posting online. Participants begin to form friendships, learn, teach, and share experiences together the way humans do in the real world, in a digital world. Alright, let's talk about learning. VR is a revolution in the way we approach education and job training. Instead of reading about a place, you can go there. Instead of watching a demonstration of a skill, you can actually perform the skill. For example, medical students are now performing surgeries in virtual reality. Pilots fly in incredibly realistic flight simulators. Kids can go to the solar system or dive in the ocean and never have to leave their classroom. VR is also great for people who learn differently. If you are someone who learns better through actually doing rather than listening, it can flip the switch. It's not just students either. Companies are now using VR to train employees accurately, safely, and for very little cost. Firefighters, nurses, and even factory workers are now getting trained using VR experiences. All of these points point to an education system that could be more accessible, relevant, engaging, and more effective, especially for a person who doesn't have a great experience with the traditional educational system. Work is evolving and VR is beginning to influence that too. With the number of remote workers now growing, VR might allow teams to meet in the same space virtually. They can move around, use whiteboards, and present 3D product models, all in a way that feels more like being in the same room rather than engaged in a 2D static screen. VR also is being utilized for training people whose jobs are hazardous, construction, emergency, first responders, in a safe manner. VR allows them to safely work through the same scenario over and over until they feel that they can complete the task at hand. VR can also create a more equitable and inclusive workplace. People with disabilities, as well as people who are located in a remote or inaccessible in accessible area might be able to participate more fully in VR-based office or meetings. In the future, it is possible that we might not think that work as a place we go to, but as a place we log into. And VR might assist in making that space feel more connected, more human, and more creative. VR is not just about technology, it is about new ways of expressing ourselves. In virtual places, people create avatars that express their personality or different aspects of their identity. This is liberating for many. We can attend virtual concerts, events, or protests. We can visit art galleries, socialize with friends, or even date, all within the confines of our own homes. There is a new dimension of socializing. VR can also create empathy. Some VR apps give us a sense of being somewhere else, like walking in the world as a refugee or seeing through the eyes of a person with a disability. But then we'll still need to interrogate, what is the real connection? Can we become less socially connected by spending more time in the virtual environment? These are conversations that we need to keep having as VR develops. While VR is a welcome and exciting new technology, we should consider the drawbacks and responsibilities associated with it. First, let's discuss privacy. VR headsets track an unbelievable amount of data, including where your eyes go, how your body moves, and your voice. The information that VR devices collect can be personal. Large technology companies will likely store a portion of that information, so we will need regulations and processes to better understand that information and how it might be used or misused. Then we have the social risk. Just as some people become attached to video games, others might become too attached to virtual worlds, as they might feel less connected to real life relationships when in VR. In social VR platforms, there are multiple ways for harassment and bullying to occur, and many instances of bullying are increasing by weak moderation tools. Another major issue is access. VR headsets are just too expensive for some people. This creates a digital divide. If and when VR becomes part of our work, schooling, or healthcare, we don't want whole groups excluded from the conversation. As we move forward and VR continues to develop, we will need to think about how to build an ecosystem that is developed intentionally, ethically, fairly, and with fullness and inclusion. The future for VR is highly uncertain and wide open, with the potential positive consequences being expansive and bountiful. In the next 5 to 10 years, virtual reality could become just as essential and common as smartphones have become, fundamentally changing the way we work, learn, shop, and socialize. The next 5 to 10 years could lead to an entire industry of fiction and entertainment, such as virtual travel, virtual fitness, and completely immersive online therapy experiences. It might also lead to new career or jobs in either VR design, digital fashion, or teaching in virtual classrooms. There are also negative consequences from VR. If a few major developers or technology companies control the VR space, we run the risk of monopolization. If access to VR remains the domain of wealthier players, the illusion of social mobility and access becomes a potential fact or that device or deepens social inequality. The positive aspect is that we are still in the early phases of design and communication related to VR. The choices we deliberately make in terms of how we design, share, safeguard VR will be the elements that information and construct our future VR world. As we collective a population still have the opportunity and responsibility to advocate for, demand, and collaboratively design a future for VR that provides togetherness as people rather than distance or separation, and assists or aids in creativity, empathy, and progressive endeavors.